welcome to a very special FA Cup episode of Sussex Wealth Gull Mouth Action podcast. I'm Matt Poll and I'm joined by Crawley Town expert Mark Dunford and a very special guest. This week, we are delighted to welcome Horsham manager Dominic Di Paola to the podcast. Dom was appointed as Hornets manager in April 2015 and oversaw Horsham's first league title for 20 years as they won the Southern Combination Premier Division by 11 points in 2016. He then guided the club back to the SBN Premier after a 7-year absence in 2019, where they've remained consistently in the division's top half since. Following promotion back to the Prem, Dom has taken the Hornets to the first round of the FA Cup twice, guided Horsham to their first ever Isthmian League Cup success, and just last season secured the Hornets' highest ever league placing and points total. This Friday sees Horsham travel to high-flying League One outfit Barnsley in the first round proper of the FA Cup. We'll look ahead with Dom to the tie at Oakwell, which has been fraught with controversy, as well as Worthing and Crawley Town's cup clashes at Alfreton Town and Notts County, respectively. Thank you very much for joining us this week, Dom. How are you getting on? You all right?
Yeah, well, good. Thanks for having me on.
Lovely stuff. No, absolute pleasure. But before we get started, you recently took charge of your 400th competitive game as Horsham manager, which I think makes you the second longest serving manager in the club's history. How proud are you of this achievement and what do you put your longevity at the helm down to?
Yeah, it's amazing. I didn't know about it until the day. I think it was on the intro of the game that I think Mark Wells, who's sort of like our statistician, historian, stuck something on there. So yeah, it's incredible. It's amazing, really. 400 games with a couple of COVID years as well. So yeah, I don't know where they've all gone, but yeah, it's pretty, pretty proud, really. It's amazing they've let me look after the club for that long, to be fair.
Well, looking ahead to this Friday's game at Oakwell, there's mentioned plenty of noise surrounding the tie, which we'll be looking at in a minute. But have you been able to enjoy any of it so far?
Yeah, I was just talking to the management team earlier on today. It's just a lot of admin at the moment. We'll be fine once we get on the coach and get up there, and then it becomes a bit more, a bit more normal. But yeah, it's just running around trying to sort things out, ticketing and coordinating all the. We've got best part of 30 people from a first team point of view going up. So it's just trying to coordinate everyone, make sure everyone's all right. Try and be as fair as we can to the players who've also got sort of day jobs. And it's just the logistics at the moment. I'll be glad when we're sitting on the coach and we're pretty much teed everything up.
I'm guessing you've had a lot of requests for tickets this week as well from people.
Yeah, a few requests for tickets, and then obviously trying to make sure that players get some for their families and people that are travelling up. Obviously, it's quite good because we know it's not going to sell out or anything like that. So, and they've discounted the tickets so people can get them online up to kickoff. So, yeah, it's not massive. It's not as big a problem as Dorking. I had loads and loads of requests for the Dorking game, and obviously we'd sold out, and I hadn't even made any arrangements to get any for that game. They sold out so quick. So this is slightly different because we know the stadium's massive, and we're certainly not going to fill the away end.
Before we move on to the Barnsley game, going back to the Dorking clash, which you mentioned there, I was in attendance for that, and you must have been ever so proud of the performance. I was saying to some of the people that I was with, you wouldn't know who the National League team were and who the Isthmian Premier League team were. Yeah,
it was probably the first half was probably the best one of my teams has ever played, I think, at Horsham. We were just so on it, and obviously I think Dorking had a bad day at the office, and you need that sometimes. But I thought our boys did everything they needed to sort of bring the levels together. I thought we were bang on it from a game plan point of view. They were very good on the ball, really good out of possession. Didn't really give them many opportunities to cause us problems. So it was like a complete performance, really. So it doesn't happen very often. So it's a bit of a buzz when it does happen, and it's credit to all the management team. Everyone was we put a lot of preparation into that game, and the boys just carried it out to a T. So yeah, it was a really, really good day, and obviously the atmosphere at the ground was great on the day, and that's what you do it for.
Dom, just very quickly, Mark White's interview afterwards that game went viral. I assume you saw it.
Yeah, he got more publicity than us, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he did. I mean, I was quite cynical about that because I've seen him on social media. I know what he's like. What did you think of it? And would you ever do anything like that if your team played that badly? Or
I think the biggest thing with Mark is obviously he owns the club, so he can say what he wants and he's not going to get in trouble. So I think I have to be a bit more diplomatic. Sometimes, sometimes it's so infuriating if you prepare and plan put a lot of time into something, and then the boys don't deliver in any way, and you feel like they've gone completely off script and sort of let everyone down, you do feel like lashing out sometimes. He's a different character to me. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm not quite so interesting on an interview, but that's kind of the way he is, and he'll blame himself sometimes. He'll blame his management team. You know, he's pretty open about it all, and I think because he's got like I don't even know what it is, the sort of the social media thing that they do. Yeah. I think it's all part of that. You know, he puts everything out in the open. You know, some of our players will have seen that similar sort of rants from me in a changing room, but we don't have that sort of that social media type stuff that he does. So I thought it was fair. You know, fair play. Really, I think sometimes it's right to be critical. There was money on the game. There was status on the game. Obviously, you know, we're good friends, and it's not, you know, whoever lost that one wouldn't have felt particularly good about the whole thing. So, the fact that he can do it is nice as a chairman, owner, manager, everything sort of type guy. He gets a completely different reign on things, and you don't see it too often at any level, really, that someone can just, you know, let rip and let people know what they think, really. I think it's refreshing in some ways. I think supporters probably sometimes quite like to hear that, because they're probably in the stand saying similar. But obviously, you always have to be a bit diplomatic if it's, you know, if you're just representing a football club instead of heading the whole thing up.
Well, I'm sure as anyone who's read a County Times back page lead knows, Dom, you're a diplomatic as anything, so you don't need to worry about that. Yeah. As has been well documented, looking ahead to Friday, the game at Oakwell has been moved from a traditional 3 p.m. start on Saturday to 7:45 p.m. on Friday, following talk to South Yorkshire Police. This decision to move the fixture has been widely criticised by yourself, Dom, Horsham and Barnsley supporters, and Horsham Committee Vice Chairman Mark Barrett. How has the date switch affected your build-up and preparation for this game?
Yeah, it's made it a lot harder, and obviously when I spoke to you about it at the time, it was largely down to the fact that I kind of get why Barnsley wouldn't put a huge amount of effort into changing it. It makes it an easier tie for them. We would have liked to have travelled up sort of like some stage, you know, midday or something on the Thursday to give ourselves a nice easy run up, not hitting rush hour, a bit more time up there to get a bit of a breather, and you know, maybe head back, you know, sometime midday sort of Saturday. But because of people having to take time off work, we're all travelling up on the evening of the Thursday, which is you know, it has its problems, you know, sorting out food, sorting out travel, sorting out hotels, getting there for a late check-in, the boys not having as much rest as you'd have liked. So yeah, it's a shame from a footballing point of view. You know, as non-league people, this is kind of our world anyway. You know, we'll finish work, rush to a game, get back, you know, 1 a.m. It's just kind of what we're used to anyway. So it's not that big a deal. We just have to roll with it. The disappointing thing is that we'd have liked this to have been our, like, you know, kind of our weekend, and make a real you know, make a real event of it. It's not often that happens. You know, the Barnsley people seem really, really good and proper football people. So it would have been a great event. And I feel for the supporters. I feel for the kids who can't come up, because anyone who's been to our ground would see that, you know, a big chunk of our gate are families and kids, and they're gonna, you know, perhaps have something that, you know, would live with them for a long period of time that they're not going to be able to have. And I know there's a lot of younger, they're now a lot older, that were at the Swansea game, and they still talk about that game a lot. So it's like, you know, you're kind of taking away an experience for the kids and you know, the families of Horsham, and that's a real shame. I also think it's a bit of a shame for sort of Barnsley in general, because I know that our supporters would have spent plenty of money on hotels, restaurants, drinks in the pubs. You know, we're in the dead of winter now, and it's like, I can't imagine Barnsley's going to be super busy with tourism or anything this time of year, if it's anything like where we live. So, you know, there would have been a good amount of people that were staying maybe 2 nights up in Barnsley and make a real weekend of it. But it is what it is. Unfortunately, a decision was made. It was a poor decision. I think it was rushed. I don't think the right people were consulted, and maybe everyone can learn from that. But we just have to roll with it, really.
You've kind of touched on it a little bit there, Dom, but have you been heartened by the support you've received from Barnsley's fan base especially? They seem to have backed everything.
Yeah, I think football supporters in general, are usually fed up with this sort of stuff anyway. Like, you know, I think a lot of our supporters have become our supporters because they're fed up of games being put on at all sorts of different times for the Premier League or Championship clubs or whatever that they support. So it's like it's a common theme for them. So whilst this is, you know, to Barnsley, you know, not the most, you know, not the biggest game they're going to face this year, their supporters have still got to, like, you know, maybe rush back from work to get to the game or miss a game. You know, you got a lot of supporters that don't like missing any of their games. They're diehards, and it's a headache for everyone. So yeah, it's a real shame. I don't think it was, as I said, I don't think it was thought through, and I don't think, you know, the powers that be all got together and actually, you know, put their heads together. But it's very common. Happens a lot in football.
I was going to say, by contrast, and without wanting to get you into trouble, how disappointing has the response been from the FA? Because you said you've seen the club has received little in support from them, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't even think there's not been any support. I just think that there wasn't like a joined up conversation, and it was kind of rushed through as soon as everyone knew that it wasn't going to be on the TV and that the TV weren't going to dictate when the game was. You know, it's kind of just like being a rushed. This is the date. This is the day, and you know, like I said, it's probably one that, you know, I'm sure all the parties will learn from in the future. That there probably needed to be a bit more time, a slight delay on it, some justifications as to why it's not a good time to put a game on. But you know, we as a football club will live and learn from it, and I think obviously maybe the FA will take a view on it in the future, because it's not good. It's not good PR for anyone, really, is it?
No, not really.
But as I said, I don't particularly blame anyone. I just don't think it was thought through enough.
Yeah, moving to matters on the pitch, Dom. Barnsley sit 5th in League One after 15 games and are unbeaten in their last 5. As a manager of a semi-professional outfit, how do you prepare to take on a full-time side that is 5 divisions above your team? And will you be using the experience in your blueprint against Carlisle a couple of years back? Yeah,
so we've not done it before, so it's quite hard to it's quite hard to put something in place. But no, I mean, I've said this to everyone. We prepare exactly the same week in, week out. So I think we do quite a lot of due diligence on our, you know, sort of the clubs we're coming up against. So we'll do exactly the same. We're not in a luxurious position because of the way we're travelling up on the Thursday. We've lost a training session as well, so we would have normally trained on the Thursday. So we literally had last night. We had a brief run through. You know, obviously it's easy to get loads of info on a League One side. We know plenty about them. As to how you deal with it is a different matter. But you know, five leagues, it gives us a tiny % chance of doing anything in the game. It's you know, full time against a very, very much, you know, this week even more part time than normal team. And but you know, we just want to do ourselves justice. We want to make the club proud. We want to make the supporters proud. The boys want to do the best they possibly can. We've got some ideas. Whether it works is you know, is going to be dependent on the night. I always think, like with these FA Cup upsets, usually the FA Cup upsets are at clubs that are in turmoil or, you know, having a bad season, in a bit of a rut. They turn up to the game and it's a bit of a negative. You know, the one we had against Carlisle was very, very much like that. I think if we'd have had a couple of, we had quite an injury crisis at the time, and I think it got to like 73 minutes, and we were quite comfortable. They weren't, they weren't troubling us all that much. It looked like a bit of a bore draw, and it was only their subs that came on impacted the game, and we ended up. I felt we could have got the replay that day, but that was a club that was rock bottom of the league, and the supporters were ranting and raving at the game because they were fed up of the performances. So sometimes you can feed off that, but this is going to be a different one. Barnsley are flying; they're top of League One. They're at home. We've had to travel, so there's loads of factors against us. We'll do what we can to you know, to put on as good a performance as we can, and just see how it, you know, see where it goes really.
Yeah, you would have fancied facing Crawley Town at the moment, wouldn't you?
Well, I don't know with Crawley. I mean, they're probably doing better than everyone predicted this year, aren't they?
They are. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know. Any league club, the time they have to prepare for stuff, you know, we get 15 minutes on a Thursday to work on set pieces. You know, if you're full time, you can spend a morning on, you know, or a couple of mornings, you know, on the finer detail, all the pattern. You know, you can break your week down into sort of out possession, in possession. There's so many things you can do. We do a sort of condensed 4 elements in one session, and then bolt on some finishing and some set pieces on a Tuesday night. it's really tough. And then add on to that is the additional fitness that those guys have got, and obviously they're super talented footballers playing in League One. So it's a huge challenge, but it's a great one. Like, you just want to embrace those sort of occasions and just see how we get on.
What are your memories of that FA Cup trip to Carlisle, Dom? It was the first time Horsham had been in the first round since 2007, so it's very much a special moment for the club and the supporters as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've never been that bothered about the FA Cup, to be honest. I've said this before, because you're so low down, in terms of the qualifying rounds and everything. I never really got it, and we had such a tough draw all the way through. It was a very different run to this one. I think we played Haywardsea first round. They were top of the league at the time, in the league below. Then we played Kingstonian, who was the top of our league. Then we played Eastbourne Borough, who at the time I think were fifth in the National South. Then we played Woking, who were third, and it was such a challenge just to get there. And then all through that, we had like massive injury crisis. But the actual weekend, Carlisle was unbelievable. Like, the club pulled out all the stops. We had a brilliant hotel. It was really well coordinated. Everything was perfect. I think the boys had an experience they'll never forget. So and then I kind of fell in love with it off the back of that. I think, going up there and realizing the point of it, I suppose. And the first round is like an achievement itself. I never saw it as an achievement because you're not winning anything, are you? But it is a great achievement for the club, and obviously it creates memories for the supporters that they'll talk about, for forever, sort of thing. So yeah, it's brilliant. And then obviously the following year we wanted to do exactly the same. We lost in the first qualifying round, so it kind of reminds you just how hard it is to do. So that's what the Carlisle trip gave you, really, is just this amazing experience. And for that weekend, our boys were treated like Premier League players. Everything about it was spot on. It was a brilliant weekend. So and also it was with a team that was coming to the end of its cycle with us. There was a lot of older guys that had got us out of step 4, and it was kind of their sort of last achievement. So it was amazing that we could do that with that batch of players. And obviously a lot, almost all of them are not with us now as in the team. A few of them are retired, and some of them have gone to other clubs and whatever. So to do that with that bunch of boys, especially off the back of COVID, where they lost 2 years of their football, which was a real shame for everyone. So yeah, it was brilliant, and that's kind of given us the taste for it, I suppose.
Not many people may know this, but Horsham have an ex-Barnsley player among their ranks. Midfielder Charlie Harris moved to the Tykes from Brighton in February 2016 before departing in August of the same year. Has Charlie been giving you any advice on what to expect at Oakwell as an ex-Barnsley lad, Dom?
So Charlie's he's mentioned mainly more around the social, which is not really helping us all that much. So if we wanted to know about the nightlife or where his digs were, that would be really helpful. But unfortunately, apart from that, we've not had too much intel. But yeah, Charlie was up there, I think, for a bit. I don't know how long he was up there, but he's mentioned it a few times that he was on the books of Barnsley for a bit. So fair play to him. And obviously it's nice for him. I think he was buzzing to go back up.
Yeah, so Dom, you're the first manager in Horsham's history to guide the club to the first round proper of the FA Cup twice, which is quite an incredible achievement. Can you enjoy those little milestones while you're still in charge, or will you really appreciate it once you've sort of retired? I know retired's a strong word for someone of your age.
Yeah, I like breaking records. I think at Horsham it's quite nice because we've got a guy called Mark Wells he's just the oracle on the history of the club.
Yeah,
and he's got every record going. So we've been so lucky. Like, what we've done since we've been at the club is it's mad, really. Like, there's been so many things, so many firsts for the football club, and we've had some brilliant players that have helped us along the way. Some brilliant guys, from a managerial, around the management team, and it's like we've just been really lucky that we've had a lot of good things happen while we're here. It's mad to get there twice. As I said, after the Carlisle one, we talk about it a lot, and it was like, it's one of those lifetime experiences. So to do it again is like, you're just really lucky. You just got to be really grateful that you've got that chance, because it doesn't happen to every team, and I don't think it's happened a huge amount in Sussex. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant. You need so much. You need so many things to go go your way in the run, and you need luck and you need your players to be on it. And we could have gone out. We could have possibly gone out in the first qualifying away at Leatherhead. We weren't very good that day, and then we got them back to ours and got through. And it was kind of like, apart from the Dorking one, we were sort of scrapping to get through. We were playing teams from leagues below, and they're really tough to play against. Like you sometimes want a Woking or a Dorking because you know what you're going to get. So it's amazing. Like all the we've been really lucky at Horsham to have so many good things, and we're in as a club at the moment. We're in a really good spell. Like the last sort of like 8-9 years has been largely positive off the back of probably 10-12 years of massive negativity. So I always say you have to sort of ride it when it's good, because you can change quite quick, can't it, at any football club? So
yeah, definitely.
When we spoke on Tuesday, Dom, you didn't really have a clear picture of how Horsham are going to be stacked on the injury front. I think you've held a training session on the Tuesday evening. So bearing that in mind, how are you looking for Barnsley?
We're all right. We've got a couple of doubts. We think Mazzone will be out. We don't think he's going to make it. Everyone else, I think, should be there or thereabouts. There's a few that are carrying some knocks, and we'll have to assess it almost last minute. But yeah, we've kind of got through this batch of games with most of the squad intact. I mean, we're really lucky this year. We've got the best and biggest squad that we've ever had. We've been really lucky that players wanted to stay last year, and we've made some good additions. So, like, I've never had a situation where we've been able to sort of like mix it up as much as we have. So that's allowed players to get their fitness. We've not rushed people back, and historically we've always had to do that. So it's been really, really helpful to have a big squad of players to choose from. And the boys have been brilliant. They've all been, mixing in and delivering. And so many people have contributed to the FA Cup run with their performances in different games. Almost the whole squad's done something great. So it's going to be tough to pick an 11, and then it's going to be tough to pick a 5 that come on. But that's unfortunately the only negative of the trip. But we've got hopefully lots of other good things coming up this season where players can impact.
Meanwhile, Worthing travelled to Alfreton Town this Saturday in the Cup, and they'll certainly be in good spirits following last weekend's excellent win in National League South, won't they, Mark? But it won't be an easy trip to Alfreton, will it?
Yeah, I don't think so. Alfreton are currently 5th in the National League North table. So, when Adam Hinshelwood said to me, because I was there for when they beat Crawley in the Senior Cup 6-2, and he said, but the good thing is there's going to be a step 6, or step 5. I can't remember. Are they step 5?
Must be 5, yeah.
5.
Yeah, there'll be a step 5 team in the second round, which is a good thing. And he said it's a game both sides think they'll be able to win. So he's got the makings for a cracking cup tie, and he's got everybody available for it. He's injury free at the moment, and everybody wants to play. He says you can read his full interview with him in the Worthing Herald tomorrow. But they're going to travel up on the Friday, like you are, Dom, on the day before, and he just says it will give them a glimpse of bigger games they want to be playing more regularly. They've obviously got ambitions. They're doing really well this year. I think they will be in the National Premier next year. So it's going to be it's going to be a really good one, and it's just again a real good experience. And they're lucky enough to have the 3 p.m. on a Saturday, aren't they? Unfortunately, so sorry to rub it in.
Saturday we'll see Worthing appear in the FA Cup first round for just the 4th time in the club's history. You'd have to go all the way back to 1999 when the Reds last appeared at this stage, when they lost out 3-0 at Rotherham United. What do you make of Adam Hinshelwood's success down at Worthing, Dom? He's already won the Isthmian Premier and Sussex Senior Cup titles, and he's recently signed a new 3-year deal. It seems that it's set up for success at him down there.
Yeah, he's done an amazing job, to be honest. I think I don't think you can fault it. Like I think we all have to sit back and admire what he's done there. People, I see him get a bit of criticism now when they lose, which tells you how good a job he's done, because you kind of get like a bit of a floating support that have come off the back of his success. So I remember when he come back in, I think they were scrambling to stay in that league. I don't think they'd won when he came in, and I think they were ground sharing with Bognor because they had problems with the pitch. And if you think where he's taken that club from there to now, He's done an amazing job. They play great football. You know, they're a really good. They're a good side to watch, and we like. You know, obviously Worthing's my local team. I live in Worthing, so if we're off last minute and they're at home, I'll always pop down and watch them. But yeah, I think he's done a great job, and he's almost ticked every kind of non-league box. I think, you know, first round FA Cup, one Isthmian Prem, one Sussex Senior Cup. You know, he's almost achieved, you know, almost everything sort of non-league wise. So yeah, I think he's done a great job. He's transformed that football club from a club that was in a bit of turmoil when he come in, and yeah, he deserves a huge amount of success and credit.
Are you surprised that Worthing haven't featured in the first round of the Cup more often, Dom? They seem like to have been, since I've been working, it seemed to be quite a big fish in West Sussex football.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is the madness of, like, you know, this is what we said about this generational thing. You know, that's a generation of people. I remember the 99 one. I used to go and watch them when I was playing when I was young. I remember them getting there then, and the players they got. And you think there's been some talented boys that have played for Worthing between 1999 and now, and it's just not fallen for them. So it just shows. You know, I don't know when Bognor got there last, but it's a huge challenge even to get through a couple of rounds. If you have, you know, you can have bad draws year after year, or you can have bad luck year after year. So it just shows, doesn't it? As I said, Worthing's been a powerhouse probably at least for 10 years at the moment. You know, they've been one of the benchmarks for us all, the way they've been run since George came in and took them over, and they've not been able to get there. So it's it's a huge one, and obviously he deserves lots of credit. Probably he hasn't been given the credit he deserves for this one because of the draw. You know, it's like as much as you say we've been a bit, you know, unfortunate with the day. We've got our first round against the league opposition. You know, he could go up there and the pitch is awful, and they scrape, you know, Alfreton beat them on the day, and it's so disappointing that they haven't had their moment in the sun, if you like, because they're playing a team of the same level as them. So it's a real catch-22, because they can get through. It is a comfortable game. They could win it. Then they get the prize money of everything, and then they could get the marquee game in the next round, or they could have a bad day at the office. Alfreton beat them, and it's all over. And he hasn't had any of the sort of like the stuff that we've had this week with the BBC, ITV, you know, all the different things that we've got off the back of pulling probably about as good a tie as you're going to get in the first round. So it's a difficult one. Like, if anyone asked me who we'd want, we probably wouldn't want a non-league team at this stage. We'd take almost the impossible challenge of a Barnsley than a team that you can easily lose to anyway, if that makes sense.
Finally on Worthing, Dom, how do you see that one going at Alfreton?
Yeah, I think it for me, it probably depends a little bit on the surface. I don't know what the surface is like up there, but I think, you know, they're both going to be quite similar in terms of their ability. I think Worthing can beat anyone on their day. I think they're one of them teams. Like, I think when they get up ahead of steam, I think they can beat anyone. They played us in pre-season and we just couldn't live with them. And I've seen them do that to loads of sides. And obviously they played Crawley the other week, and you know, they can when they're on it, they're very hard to beat. They play quite a unique style of football. But I don't watch a lot of the National North, so I can't comment on the style up there. I would have thought it's probably slightly more physical, that league, given the fact there's a lot of big clubs that still floating around that league. But yeah, I think they can beat anyone on their day. I also think they could probably slip up there. It's a tough one. That, I think when that got pulled out, Hinch is probably pulling his hair out a little bit, but it's not. It's not an easy tie that to go away. If he got them at home, he'd probably be buzzing. But you know, anywhere away is hard, because it's tough for non-league teams to go away.
Crawley Town, meanwhile, travelled to League Two Notts County on the same day as Worthing. We'll talk about this more in detail tomorrow, Mark, because a lot has been happening at Crawley Town. Everything always seems to be happening at Crawley Town. But how has Crawley's build-up been in preparation for this one?
Well, it's been kind of disrupted, really. I mean, Scott Lindsay will tell you that it on the training ground, etc., it wouldn't have been disrupted in that. But the noise around Crawley this week, with Scott being revealed that Scott apparently had 2 interviews for the Gillingham job, but today Stephen Clements was given that job. So hopefully that settles that down a little bit. But they've been on a very poor run. October, they had 6 games. One of those was in the EFL Cup. They drew 0-0 at Sutton and then lost on penalties. But they didn't pick up. They picked up 1 point, in the whole of October. When you look at September, they won every game, I think, in September. So it's been not the best build-up and preparation for a game in a competition which Crawley would like to do well in, because, as we've said before, is money. And even at League Two level, the prize money at this level makes a big difference. So it hasn't been the best preparation. When I spoke to Scott on Monday, he said that you always want to go into an FA Cup game on the back of a win. So you've just got that little bit of positivity and that. But they've had, they drew at Walsall, but they've had four other losses in October. So hopefully, new month, this Gillingham stuff is behind them now. Maybe it is a more positive feeling around it.
Well, you mentioned their form there, Mark, in the league. Is this game a welcome distraction for them, or would they rather be righting a few wrongs in the league?
Well, I asked exactly the same question to Scott on Monday, and he said to me, "That's a very good question." So, good question.
Thank you very much.
But he said it is a distraction, and I think it is a little bit of a welcome distraction given what's happened with Gillingham and all the things. But I think he still would rather just correct his league, get the league form, have a couple of wins, and then play the FA Cup game. But yeah, it is. I think it is a good distraction, because I think he'll change up the lineup a little bit this week. It's a chance for him to try something different. Obviously, it hasn't worked the last five games, so maybe he'll try something new, give a couple of other players some chances and that. So I think it's a good distraction for him to try something different. And another league defeat on Saturday would, I think people would start to ask questions just because of what happened with Gillingham and everything. So FA Cup, I don't know if it's not a free hit, but it's something different for the fans to think about. So I think I think it is a good distraction for them this weekend.
You mentioned that they might make a lot of changes for the game at Notts County. Would the only worry for that be that fans may view that Scott Lindsay isn't taking the cup tie seriously, or is that probably looking too much into it?
I think, no, I don't think it's looking too much into it. But, I mean, if you read what the fans are saying about Scott Lindsay now, after the start they've had this season, everybody wrote them off. Everybody's favourite to go down. He's got, what has he got? I think it's 21 points from 14 games. And as he said to me on Monday, you get that at the end of the season, that's 65 points, and that could be a playoff. That's not good enough to get you to playoffs. So just because they've lost a few games, I think we all know what football fans are like. They're a bit fickle. When it's going well, everybody's the best. When they're not going well, if changes need to be made, etc. Scott Lindsay can't win at the moment, I don't think. But if they make some changes, they beat Notts County on Saturday, then he's a genius again, isn't he? I mean, fans will be fans, and they will read into it what they want to. But I think it is a good opportunity for Scott to try something different, because, like we said, they have had a bad run, so he needs to change things up a little bit, I think.
And although the tie may not set pulses racing necessarily, Mark, how do you think they'll get on? It's a winnable tie for him, I think.
Well, I think it is as well, because Notts County, they've set their stall out. They are going to be pushing for promotion this year. And if it means they sacrifice the FA Cup to get a promotion, to lead 2 promotions on the trot from National League to League One in 2 seasons, I think that's what they'll want. You'd imagine Notts County will make changes as well, because they probably see it as Crawley are coming here. Crawley need to focus on the league as well. I don't know. It's a winner. Yeah, it's a winnable tie. I think they play similar football to Scott Lindsay, but they've got a much bigger budget, and they've probably got what you would see on paper as better players as well, playing that kind of football. But I did ask Scott, is it hard to prepare a side that plays similar football to you? And he said, yes, it is, because I played this kind of football, because it's hard to play against. So he's fearing it's going to be a hard game. But it is. I think it's a winnable game. I think both sides will go into it thinking they can win, similar to Alfreton and Worthing. So I think it's it's got the makings for a really good effort. I think there'll be goals in it. I think there'll be a lot of goals in it. It could be like a 4-3 thriller either way. So, but Crawley do need to get scoring again now, because they didn't score a lot in October. September they scored 20 goals in 4 or 5 games. So it's going to be an interesting one. But now the Gillingham stuff's out of the way, I'm hoping that everything settles down and Crawley get back into winning ways.
Finally, Dom, to wrap it up, I know you said you didn't follow Crawley that much, but how do you see that tie going down at Notts County?
I saw quite a bit of Notts County last year in the National League. I think they're a good side. They play good football. I think he comes across a really good manager, the guy at Notts County. As to how that game goes, I mean, I think it's a winnable game for both of them, isn't it? It depends who's most focused on it. You know, it's one of them. If you're on a bad run, you almost want to go full strength and get something clicking again. If it was me, I'd 100%. I don't think I'd be resting people and seeing it as a. I think we were talking about this the other day. Like, if you think about the FA Cup of all the competitions, like, I don't know why anyone would rest players, because if you look at it, like, for example, Barnsley, they you know, it's a winnable game against us. They get a nice draw in the second round. The third round game's worth $500,000 if they get the right draw. $500,000 to any sort of League Two, League One clubs, you know, minimum of a fifth of you know, like their playing budget for the season. So that it's the same principles as what we have. Like, you know, we're looking at as a, you know, an opportunity to earn money for the football club. It's the same. And then obviously on top of that, Crawley need a win by all accounts. I don't follow Crawley all that much. Only a little bit in the summer when I saw they were tipped for going down. So it looks like the manager's done a pretty decent job, but that's probably a toss of a coin, that game.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah.
And you mentioned the money side of things, Dom. How is the cup run money, or how will it help Horsham, the run that you've been on?
I don't really know is the honest answer. Like, I think I don't get too involved with the sort of the finances of the club, but obviously we've had, you know, the Dorking game was a big crowd. I think what it does, the finances obviously help, but I think it obviously gives the club a bit of a steer on what they need to do to sort of manage the bigger crowds, and we're seeing our crowds grow every season. So there's talk of applying for an extent, you know, an increase to our capacity, because we're locked in at, I think, just under 2,000. So I assume there need to be some of the money spent on the ground to bring that up, to allow us to increase the capacity and stuff like that. But we're just we're a growing football club at the moment. Every season, or almost sort of every couple of months, there's something we've had to do to accommodate bigger crowds, or, you know, we've got bigger events happening at the club. So I would have thought that if there's surplus money, it will go to that side of things, really. There's always talk about, you know, new additions to our ground in terms of like stands and facilities. So it can't be a bad thing.
Oh, well, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, Dom, and thank you very much for your time, Mark. Best of luck on Friday, Dom. Hopefully I'll see you, weather permitting. Yes, you can catch up with everything sports related on sussexworld.co.uk/sport. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be looking at Brighton and Hove Albion and Crawley Town in more detail. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.